Candid Frank live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy? It's been a good weekend. You didn't play hockey last week, right?
Did play hockey on the Friday.
You did. And
yes.
how did it go?
We lost, but that's okay.
But didn't you guys finish first or
format for the playoffs. Yeah, we finished first, but it's a round robin format for the playoffs, so we've got a bit of a target on our backs.
Yeah, you know what? My experience, I have a few trophies from that kind of stuff, and I've noticed over the years that the teams that do well during the regular season sometimes don't do well during the playoffs for some unknown reason. I don't know why, but it seems to happen. I guess motivation is a strong motivator. It comes in handy, and I think motivation when it comes to the Canadian Football League right now is to build a team so that you can make it to the Grey Cup. This is going to be a great season because it will include the regular amount of games, the regular amount of preparation, meaning exhibition games. And it should be very, very interesting. It's been an interesting season thus far, if you will, if the offseason counts as the season. Start with the Riders, buddy. What's going on there?
Well, it looks like they signed American defensive back C.J. Rivas again. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but I'm going to guess you are.
A little bit. A little bit.
He's spent a little time with the Jaguars, saw a little time against the Indianapolis Colts, and from there was signed to the Atlanta Falcons during 2019, where he was on the practice roster. So, but the good news is, from there, he's managed to work his way here after spending some time at Marshall University. So I'm anxious to see him on the field.
Tell the truth about the Lions.
Well, they've been looking to fortify themselves, so they've signed Nathan Hurley. So that'll be interesting. I'm wondering if Hurley's looking to go the same route as Pat McAfee did. Become a professional kicker and punter and then mainline or headline at WrestleMania. We'll have to see.
I wouldn't want to be involved with that. I'd get a little sheepish. What about the Elks?
Well, the Elks have actually been a little bit busy. They hired Merritt Bowden as their special teams coordinator and added 2 other staff members. So basically what we're looking at here is they've added, let's see, who else did they add here? They have added McAdoo and Jackson. So that's an interesting tandem for them. They've also added Marquess Daniels and released defensive back Josh Woodman. So there's a few changes. There's a few changes on the back end for you.
We couldn't decide on which color, so we called them both names, Red Blacks. What about them?
This is true. It's been one of the more confusing names, and I've been getting my fair share of grief from American friends who look at the CFL and go, how the heck are they naming teams up there?
Well, it's better than the 2 Rough Rider teams we used to have.
Well, this is true. They did add a couple American players to their roster. They signed defensive back Jawan Dotson and defensive lineman Trevin Young. Sorry. So they'll be interesting to see. Dotson most recently played with the Hamilton Ticats. He signed with the club in 2020 and 2021 before being released in July. Young had 26 tackles along with 4.5 sacks in 2017 with Louisville. He's also spent some time with the Cleveland Browns. So those are some interesting additions for them right there.
Win, lose, or Ticats?
I'm not sure what category they do fall into, but they did sign American offensive tackle DeAndre Wesley. They also signed American receiver and returner Marcus Green again. So he'll be back for another season in the black and yellow. Now he did only play 1 game for them in 2021, but it'll be interesting to see if he catches on a little bit better here.
Let's go over the National Hockey League. Who's driving the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, it currently looks like Suzuki's behind the wheel. Well done with that one, sir. He actually had an overtime marker to help them to a 5-4 win. Now, this is actually interesting because they're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are playing the Leafs tonight. So we'll have to see if there's a little bit of that rebound factor going on there. But it'll be interesting to see. That game goes at 7:30.
The last game for the Senators was the first one without their owner. Tell me the truth. What happened there?
It was an emotional night. There was a very moving tribute at the start of the evening. They made sure that they kept his personal box empty with his nameplate up on a chair, which was a rather nice touch. Also, here's what's really cool. Josh Norris, who grew up cheering
Seriously?
for the Detroit
Josh?
Lions.
Just kidding.
I know, right? He got a hat trick for his first hat trick ever in a 5-2 win. So
you're not joshing, are you?
No,
I guess he
definitely not.
was. I guess the team was joshing.
Let me be frank.
There you go. No risks. So the Jets, they got crowned, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't their night. Connor Hellebuck it didn't look like he could stop a beach ball at points. It was very difficult. But Kopitar scored a goal and had an assist, and that was his 1200th career NHL game. Not to mention Kempe and Velarde also scored for the Kings in their win. So it seems some of the problems that the Jets were having earlier in the season have come back to haunt them, and that's a paucity of defensive coverage and Hellebuck not playing as well as he could. But it is what it is. Cal Peterson on the other side of the coin had a fantastic game for them, for the Kings. So that's,
Calgary Flaming out for the third game in a row.
Yeah, this has become a bit of a disturbing trend for the Flames. They are unfortunately on the wrong end of a losing skid. For a team that came out of the All-Star break, all guns blazing, playing Ron Sutter style playoff hockey, I'm a little concerned as to this backslide that we've seen here. But it's not like it's irreparable. They're still doing relatively well in the standings. They're where they need to be, basically. And hopefully they'll be able to turn it around. Calgary are now sitting at 40, 19, and 9, but they're winless in their last 3. They've gone 2-3-1 over their last 6-game homestand, which doesn't bode well.
You're telling me that they're not too cool right now.
Exactly.
They're not too hip.
They're kind of flaming out.
I said that already, but they're not too hip either, especially when it comes to Sean Monahan.
No, he's actually undergone season-ending hip surgery on his right hip. He held only 8 goals and 15 assists in 65 games this season so far, and he was a scratch March 25th because of what he was going through. But at this point, they finally said, look, you're 27, you're far enough along in your career. We believe that we can get through at least for a little while longer without you. Go get this surgery done. Now, this is on the right side. He had surgery on his left hip last year. So
wow.
It's a bit of a double whammy. So
definitely not hip hooray.
Nope.
Oilers strike it rich, baby.
Yeah, they've extended their win streak by stomping the Ducks 6-1. Connor McDavid had a goal and 2 assists. He's now got a 13-game point streak going. Lucky for him. Leon Draisaitl finally scored his 50th goal of the season, and they've got 4 in a row. So Tyson Barrie and Brett Kulak each had a goal and 2 assists, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins also had a goal for them. So that's pretty good. Jesse Puljujarvi also scored, and Mike Smith made 31 saves on 32 shots. So the Oilers will next see action against the Kings on Thursday.
Vancouver is sucking.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. They were on the wrong side of the joust they were on the wrong side of this tilt with the Knights. They lost in overtime 3-2. There we go. Shea Theodore scored 2:05 into overtime to lead the Knights past them. Mark Chasseau had a goal and an assist, and Alex Pietrangelo also scored in regulation for Vegas. Robin Leonard's finally back. This is a good sign for them. He's been their mainstay. On the other side of the coin, JT Miller and Bo Horvat both scored in the third for the Canucks, who were down 2-0 after the first period. Demko had a decent game, stopping 27 shots, but it's their third in a row now, so they've got to figure out a way to get that stopped and get themselves back into wildcard contention.
Yep. Thanks to Vegas, things aren't golden in Vancouver, but in Toronto, everything's shiny and beautiful, especially with Matthews.
Yes, Matthews had his 51st goal in a 6-3 defeat of the Philadelphia Flyers. Also great to see Wayne Simmons score 1 against his old team. Morgan Riley also had a goal and 2 assists. Tavares, Timothy Liljegren, and Pierre Engvall also scored for the Leafs, who in their most recent string of wins have now had 24 goals. Interesting to note that again the Leafs are scoring shorthanded. So I know that we commented before about the Leafs not drawing a lot of penalties. But if the Leafs are capable of scoring shorthanded as they have been, it may not necessarily be necessary for the NHL to rectify that.
If the Leafs trying to hold the Leafs back by keeping power plays from them, they're going to have to stop calling penalties against them too.
Well, that was the joke at the start of the season too. Was at what point can they start instituting a CFL rule where teams can just decline penalties?
There it is. And you know something, getting grounded when you're in the middle of a streak, a real special one like Keith Yandel, Flyers kept him off the score sheet, off the ice, and stalled his record. Mind you, though, he has the record, but soon it's quite possible that Kessel will catch up to him.
Yeah, and a lot of trainers and physicians around the league are kind of surprised at Kessel's longevity. I also
he doesn't strike you as a guy that is, but you know what? He lives on the principle: the less I do, the less chance there is that something bad's going to happen.
But when he does good things, they're magnificent.
He's truly a natural talent because, fortunately for him, what makes him go, I don't think he knows, so he can't ruin it.
Nope.
I don't know it.
I really do feel bad for Keith Yandel, though. I mean, dude was 11 games away. The problem is he's on the wrong side of his career at this point. He's 35 years old. His contributions may not necessarily be what they once were, and at some points, I've seen Philadelphia fans complain that he's more of a detriment than an asset at this point.
Pylon at this point.
Yeah, well, black and yellow, so you had to go there, right? But as it is,
at least you can see him.
The hope was that he could get another 11 games in to get to 1,000, but at the same time, the youngsters that Philadelphia has, they're out of playoff contention. They're not going to make it this year. So if they have the opportunity, if they do have the opportunity to get those players in for a couple games, may as well take advantage.
Kyle Lowry was back in Toronto, and the team looked good at the beginning. Van Vliet was really showing his mentor, what for, but the mentor came through at the end, or at least his team did.
Yeah, it was a fantastic ceremony. It was a great tribute video. I'm pretty sure you caught at least some of it, right, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, fantastic stuff. But yeah, it was a hard-fought game. The Raptors looked to be in control, but unfortunately, as sometimes happens, these games do tend to get away from you when you're playing against an old teammate, especially one that's meant as much to Toronto as it has. Sometimes emotions get the better of you. You make mistakes. You play a little sloppier.
I think emotions too on the Miami side because they played undermanned. You've got some guys that aren't normal starters, and they're showing you. We've seen it here in Toronto for years now. Where the guys off the bench have proven to be starters. And made it possible for them to trade some players who were key players, and then all of a sudden we're gone, and we found out there are actually some players who were on the bench that were good enough to be starters. So that's something that they had to fight. The Raptors look really good, a real class organization, a real great relationship between the player and the team, not just the team as in players, but the team, the organization as well. It was a well-attended game, a well-respected game, and the fans really, and that video tribute was awesome. The video tribute was fantastic. And they even released it before the game, which I thought was kind of another additional kind of thing that was kind of nice. And it was great that he showed up with his two kids at center court. And, it was a real family affair, which going right to if you remember the championship, his family, his kids were nearby the whole time, had him on his lap and all that kind of stuff. So daddy had a great time with his kids, and his kids also, they grew up in Toronto, so for them, it was coming back to home, kind of, sort of. But I got to tell you, Aaron, would anybody begrudge him the beauty of going outside his house and pair of shorts and a t-shirt and then step into the nice warm water of the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf? Tough life,
I wouldn't begrudge him that at all, eh?
Tough life, eh? Please don't trade me.
he did remark that he felt kind of old seeing all those different Kyle Lowry jerseys in the stands, but
Yeah,
he did say, well, technically speaking, it was 9 years, but that third season really kind of sucks. So we'll call it 8 years worth of jerseys.
the Jays make a really good trade. I like this trade where they trade catcher Reese McGuire, not just for another a heavier hitting, lower average catcher, um, but they get a first round draft choice as well, and those come in handy.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit of a surprise for me. I wasn't expecting that sort of move. Reese McGuire has sort of established himself as a good platoon guy in Toronto, but having swapping him for Zach Collins is not necessarily a bad move. He's got a little more power at the plate than Reese did, and he's got the experience. So it's good to see that both teams will get a certain amount of benefit out of this, but I think the Jays come out on top in this trade.
So explain to me how a baseball player, a pitcher, gets hurt walking his dog.
Yeah, this
Explain
is
that.
one of those things that's going to be a little bit hard for Jordan Romano to live down, unfortunately. He's currently, unfortunately, out day to day during spring training. He stepped into a hole in the road and slightly tweaked his ankle. The good news is it's not anything more serious than just a slight twist. He's not expected to miss an extended period of time, but it's definitely a call for Dunedin to do something better about their roads.
Let's go over to the other side of the country, BC in particular. They're predicting 100 millimeters of rain. This community can't afford any more rain. I think they're still getting over the rain that they got that caused a lot of mud and slides and all kinds of stuff.
Well, that washed out section of the highways in BC they're actually just getting around to starting permanent repairs now. As a matter of fact, shovels went into ground about 2 weeks ago on that, so it's just barely started. The problem here is that they're looking for up to 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters of rain in West Van, Howe Sound, East Van, and Metro Van, at least until Monday. So wind gusts are expected to reach up to 100 kilometers per hour in and around Sunshine in the Southern Gulf Islands, so that's an issue as well. But it's a low pressure system offshore that's bringing that in. Hopefully they'll be able to weather this and it won't be too bad. But we're still looking at sections of Gibson, Seckelt, in the lower Fraser Valley, north of the Fraser River, where it could be an issue.
Aaron, we always worry with politicians, elected officials. We worry about nepotism. But apparently Doug Ford literally and figuratively will have a nephew running for the Conservative Party in Toronto.
Michael has actually been parachuted in to run for the Ontario PCs in the provincial election in June. He's currently a Toronto city councillor representing the same communities his uncles Doug Ford and Rob served when they were on council. It's sort of like a political seat that's been handed down through the family at this point. It's like a family heirloom. That clock that you keep dusting off and leaving on the mantle, even though you can't remember how you got it in the first place. But there's a little bit of nepotism going on here. I think it's interesting that he's described as one of the hardest working people I know, and a strong advocate for his constituents by his uncle. So
that is a trait that I think at least the old mayor Ford, he had that. It was very constituent oriented. People could call him and he would do something. So, it is what it is. Good luck to him, and keeping the old saying nepotism in politics is a go-to move, and it is in this case. The three largest unions in Quebec are forming a coalition, Aaron. To what end?
Well, basically, we're coming up on the end of some contracts here. There's a lot of public sector contracts and collective agreements that are going to be expiring in 2020, late 2022, early 2023. So the Confédération des syndicats nationaux, the CSN, the Fédération des travailleurs et travailleuses de Québec, the FTQ, and the Centrale des syndicats de Québec, CSQ, are going to be coordinating on shared demands with non-binding agreements between those three organizations. Now, these organizations currently represent 355,000 public sector workers in Quebec, many of whom work in healthcare, social services, and education. Those are, of course, as you're all well aware, three of the sectors that were hit hardest by the pandemic, especially healthcare and social services. So, as they're going into new rounds of negotiations, it's important to have a united front amongst those three unions to get the best that they can for their employees.
Putin's favorite NATO leader won an election, 2/3 of the vote for Hungary's Orban. There were some questions about the election and whether the national TV network offered opponents equal time, all those kinds of things. Whatever election this guy's involved in, there's always questions. And if he's a buddy of Putin's, there's got to be something somewhere.
Yeah, Viktor Orban declared victory in a 10-minute speech, which was frequently interrupted by people chanting his name. He said, "We won a victory so big you can see it from the moon, and you can certainly see it from Brussels." Apparently, they got to a point where with 75% of the votes counted, it wasn't whether he would win, but how big it would actually be.
2/3 is what it ended up being. Ontario announces, this is my pet peeve, as you know, doing the show with me. Ontario announces a $21 million expansion of hospital capacity in Brampton. This is what we need to do. It's time to do that if we're going to live with COVID.
And now the money's actually going to be spent into the William Osler Health System. So $18 million is going to go towards the creation of a new emergency department at Peel Memorial Center for Integrated Health and Wellness. And $3 million is going to be going towards expanding cancer care at the Brampton Civic Hospital. So that means more than 250 new hospital beds in Brampton. The unfortunate thing is there's no money that's actually being set aside for increasing training and the number of people to staff those beds. So while it's fantastic that we have all this excess capacity, it's pointless if there's nobody to actually work the beds.
Potato showing up in the U.S. finally from Prince Edward Island.
Yes. So there was an issue about 4 months back with there was an issue a few months back with fungus that was appearing on PEI potatoes. Now the problem that we've got here is that it really crippled the industry last fall because of the potato wart fungus detected. They've managed to work their way through it, but they're still going to face about a 25% increase in the cost of production because of higher fertilizer, fuel, and labor costs.
Thanks, Aaron. This was awesome.
Appreciate it, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now.